You know that project you've been working on for 6 months? The one still sitting in your drafts folder. It's not there because you're lazy, and it's not there because you don't care enough. It's there because somewhere along the way, your brain started believing that if it couldn't be done perfectly, it shouldn't be shown at all. And that's exactly how perfectionism traps people. It disguises itself as high standards, ambition, or wanting to do great work. But most of the time, it's really just fear wearing a more acceptable mask. Fear of judgment, fear of making mistakes, fear of releasing something unfinished and realizing it doesn't match the version you imagined in your head. So instead of moving forward, you stay in preparation mode. You keep editing, keep refining, keep thinking, keep delaying the moment where the work finally collides with reality. Because reality is unpredictable. Once people can see the work, react to it, criticize it, ignore it, or misunderstand it, you lose control over the outcome. And perfectionism hates uncertainty. So your brain convinces you that one more adjustment will finally make you ready. But readiness keeps moving. The standard gets higher, the pressure gets heavier, and the work stays hidden longer. Meanwhile, the people making progress are usually not the people obsessing over perfect execution. They're the people willing to release version 1 while it's still imperfect. Not because they don't care about quality, but because they understand something perfectionism ignores. Nothing improves in isolation. Nothing gets better sitting in a folder. Nothing gets sharper trapped inside your head. Real improvement only happens when your work meets reality. When it gets tested, when it gets used, when it gets feedback, when it becomes something outside your imagination instead of trapped inside it. Because clarity doesn't come from endless thinking, it comes from interaction. It only gets better when it collides with reality. And that's where perfectionism becomes dangerous, because it doesn't present itself as self-sabotage. It presents itself as protection. Your brain treats releasing your work like a risk. What if people think it's bad? What if they judge you? So instead of letting the work exist publicly, your mind keeps pulling you back into private refinement. Just one more edit, one more adjustment, one more improvement before anyone sees it. Because perfectionism believes safety comes from eliminating mistakes before action happens. But real progress doesn't work that way. You cannot think your way into confidence before taking action. You cannot refine your way into growth without feedback. And you cannot build something meaningful while hiding it from reality. That's the illusion perfectionism creates. It convinces you that if you prepare long enough, you'll eventually reach a version where nobody criticizes you, nobody misunderstands you, nothing feels uncomfortable, and everything works perfectly the first time. But that version never arrives, because clarity only appears after interaction. Feedback only exists after you release the work. Improvement only exists after you test the work. Confidence only begins after you survive showing the work. And perfectionism tries to obtain all of those things beforehand, which is why people get stuck in endless preparation without movement. And the painful truth is, most of the tiny flaws you obsess over are invisible to everyone else. People rarely care that you rewrote one sentence 12 times. They rarely notice the detail you spent hours stressing over. What they care about is whether the work reached them at all, whether it helped them, whether it felt real. Because in the end, perfectionism optimizes for a version of reality that doesn't exist. A reality where growth happens without mistakes, where success arrives without vulnerability. But the real path is usually the opposite. You get better by being willing to look inexperienced at first. You build confidence by surviving imperfect attempts. And you grow by allowing reality to shape your work instead of endlessly protecting it from the world. And this is where a simple habit can completely interrupt the perfectionism loop the moment it starts. The next time you catch yourself endlessly re-editing, rechecking, or overthinking the same thing for the 5th time, pause and ask yourself one question. What's the worst realistic thing that happens if I release this right now? Not the exaggerated version your anxious brain creates. not the fantasy where everything collapses because one thing wasn't perfect. The real version. Most of the time, the answer is surprisingly small. Maybe there's a typo and you correct it later. Maybe someone says part of it is unclear and you improve it next time. Maybe it doesn't perform as well as you hoped, so now you have actual feedback instead of endless assumptions. That's usually it. And this matters because perfectionism survives on vague emotional fear. The moment you make the fear specific, it loses a lot of its power. Because your brain is no longer reacting to an undefined threat. It's reacting to something concrete and survivable. And that changes the entire emotional weight of action. So instead of trying to eliminate every possible flaw before releasing your work, you lower the pressure enough to move. You stop treating version 1 like it has to prove your worth. You stop expecting certainty before action. And you allow reality to become part of the improvement process instead of trying to perfect everything in isolation first. That's the shift perfectionism resists the most. You stop trying to become perfect before feedback and start using feedback to improve after action. Because the truth is, most of the things you obsess over privately are not even the things that determine whether something succeeds or fails. Real clarity only appears once people interact with the work. Once reality responds to it. Once the idea leaves your head and becomes something tangible. And you can't think your way to that stage forever. At some point, you have to release. You have to allow imperfect action to replace endless preparation. Because progress does not live inside the draft folder. It lives on the other side of finally letting the work exist. Decide what good enough means before you start. Not after you've spent hours emotionally attached to making it perfect. You ask yourself a simpler question. What is the minimum this needs to do to be useful? Not perfect, useful. If it's a video, maybe done means the idea is clear, the audio is understandable, and the message helps someone. Not cinematic perfection. If it's an email, maybe done means the message is clear, the purpose is achieved. Not perfectly crafted prose. If it's a project, maybe done simply means someone can use it, learn from it, or benefit from it today. Because once you define that standard early, something important changes psychologically. You're essentially telling your brain, once this crosses this line, it leaves my hands. Everything after that becomes improvement for version 2, not a reason to delay version 1 forever. And the strange thing is, most of the time, good enough is already more than enough for reality. Because people rarely need flawless. They need clarity, usefulness, consistency, and something real they can actually interact with. But perfectionism keeps convincing people that 95% is failure. When in reality, 95% completed and released into the world creates infinitely more growth than 100% perfect inside your head forever. The longer you wait for perfect, the longer your life stays in preparation mode. Ship the version that's good enough today. Learn from what happens next. Improve it tomorrow. That's how real progress works. Because in the end, progress will always outperform perfection that never leaves your head. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.